There was one story that in the NFL that we actually didn't really get all that into in the day that it broke, and it was kind of weird how it broke because Adam Schefter was like, trade is coming. And then people had all sorts of questions about the compensation, and that was a George Pickens acquisition. I kind of thought the compensation was kind of on the money, given how crazy George Pickens is.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know him personally, but on the field, as an athlete, his persona on the field is crazy.
Yeah, he's one of the crazy in terms of like watching a player.
Yeah. It's the fun. It's the fun of it.
Yeah, in terms of like spazzing out on the field, this guy is capable of anything. Like he's like Draymond in that way.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit.
And it's kind of crazy to say this in terms of unpredictability and crazy style on the field.
Uh-huh.
To ever wear that uniform, he's
up there.
He might be gold medalist.
In a short amount of time without a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's up there for sure. What did they trade him for? Was it a third rounder? Is that what the compensation was?
Which is kind of, this is a guy that is still new in his career. This guy that people don't deny his talents, had some of the craziest in-game catches that you'll ever see. Unbelievable talent, but also a psychopath on the field and someone that could actually hurt your team chemistry in the locker room, someone that can give you a big-time penalty, some guy whose inconsistency and unpredictability on the field almost seems like a perfect fit for Dallas and what Jerry Jones is always trying to accomplish, which is just like he's just a mad scientist over there putting all these different variables together.
The good news is that they already have a number one over in Dallas, and it's CeeDee Lamb. Me and Hawk were talking before the show, and it's like, was George Pickens the number one? He's like, no, he's a really good number two because you can't have your number one be that unpredictable.
That's
like
it.
Your number one's got to be like, all right, I know my job, I do my job, and that's what it is.
And you got like the number one is the guy you rely on in all situations. I always say and I don't know, do you guys want an analyst Hawk? Because I got a tweet or I got a message from
preferably
a meme.
Hockey analyst Hawk, but yes, you can do this.
Yeah, I mean that's powered by ChatGPT.
You can do your day job.
But I posted something where I was talking about Mike McDaniel on Rich Eisen, and then Amin commented, "This is the analysis that they get, and we get fun CTE." And for me, fun CTE Hawk is the better version of Hawk.
I agree.
But I never know how in depth you want me to go.
Let's go.
We need like 45 seconds to a minute every appearance of actual real analysis.
I'll give it to you. All right, so George Pickens, just like you talked about, he is very unpredictable. When I look at a number one receiver, I want you to be able to do two things at a high percentage. Catch and run a slant when we need it, and also be able to execute go balls, right? Now, George Pickens loves going deep routes, contested catches. He can do that. But on a third down in 5, one-on-one, we know you're getting the ball. We know they're trying to stop you. They're shading a safety your way or shading a linebacker. Can you still get free and make the catch? I don't think George Pickens has developed his game enough to do those kind of things consistently. Like to be in a spot always for the quarterback, to make sure he's doing all the little things away from the ball. Yes, we know you want the ball. Every receiver wants the ball. And we know you're great at making a play on the ball, but you got to know how what you do when you're not being the target affects the entirety of the offense and also affects your ability to have a higher percentage of getting open. And that's what I've always questioned about George Pickens. Does he have an ability for a number one receiver? Have the talent? Yes. Is he that level for skill, and does he execute his game at the position to be a number one? I would say no. So third rounder makes sense for the Cowboys, and he is the number two to CeeDee Lamb, who will be the unequivocal number one.
I want to stay here for a little bit and pick on that brain a little bit more because George Pickens assumed that he was the number one in Pittsburgh. And talent-wise, production-wise, a little hit or miss. How does I guess I'm asking you to get inside George Pickens' head, which is a crazy place to be.
Ooh.
But it's pretty well established where CeeDee Lamb is in this league. And for George Pickens to go into Dallas, how do you think he approaches that? Do you still think he thinks he's alpha?
Oh, yeah. He has that personality for sure. And I don't mind that. I like it.
I like him.
Come on, man. I thought we were faster than that, Chris. All right, but yeah, I like that mentality and mindset. I still need you to essentially do your job. Like everybody, when you're coaching a team or building a roster, like there are people with a high upside, high ceiling. Maybe if this situation happens, we get the most out of them. But then also, if the floor is bottomless, that's hard to build around, especially when he is your best receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's like, man, we're going to come into this game and we don't know what he's going to do on any given play. That's hard to build a game plan around. That's hard to see what your holes and needs are as an offense. So you go get DK Metcalf and you can argue, okay, who would you rather have over the next 4 years? But no matter what, you can say, I know what DK Metcalf is going to do within the confines of the whistle. He still has a little wild child to him as well, but at least as a player, he's a lot more consistent than what you see from George Pickens.
So what you're saying is you don't want a number one who on a run blocking play is people elbowing somebody.
Yes, that's
okay. Gotcha.
Essentially
Just write that down.
Right. Yeah. I'm kicking real game here. So okay.
Like, don't people's elbow
get that
a dog
analysis
pile. Gotcha.
anywhere else.
But he was on a franchise that had Mike Tomlin, who's navigated crazy receivers before.
Yeah.
And there were people there to kind of check him. It wasn't the veteran teams of Pittsburgh past.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to Dallas, and Dallas is the kind of place where they've made these moves and they expect guys to not be crazy, and then they're so crazy because it's a bit of a rudderless ship.
Yeah,
it starts at the top because Jerry's kind of a wild man.
Yeah, Jerry's nuts, man. Bring on the nuts.
Yeah, so like this.
That's a crap.
That's a
that's going in the club pretty quickly.
Yeah.
All right,
so who's going to hold this dude in check? Like in that wide receiver room, I don't really know if that's CD's style, and he's not there in his career where he's like veteran guy, right?
Yeah. I mean, it would likely have to be Dak Prescott. I mean, this is a new toy for Dak Prescott to use because it's hard to even. We talked about CeeDee Lamb when there's no other threats. Like, hey, you are making my job 10 times harder by not giving me the balance of making sure we have somebody that you have to give attention to. So I do think it's going to be. It can get pretty balanced pretty quickly because George Pickens seeing one-on-one and CeeDee Lamb seeing one-on-one, you got to pick your poison.
Is George Pickens the kind of guy that you look at and it's like, that's untapped potential? Like, he can be a consistent number one in the league, or is George Pickens what he is? Like, this guy's going to be kind of a helter-skelter experience and always kind of someone that you can't fully depend on because I'm not saying like he's a finished product, but I don't necessarily think that it's gonna just all of a sudden.
No. I think he'll do better in Dallas than he did in Pittsburgh, like statistically. And I know that was a big
because of the quarterback situation.
Because of the quarterback situation. Schefter put out a tweet about receivers who left and didn't do better. And he also had Mike Wallace on there. I would argue Mike Wallace doesn't belong on that list. But then Emmanuel Sanders did well. Plaxico Burress did well as well. And the fact that Pickens is early in his career and he's going to a better quarterback with a need for what he does, I think will be it. But to your question, yes, it will always be all over the place. Antonio Brown, who obviously people think of every time they talk about Steelers receivers and what Tomlin had to deal with, what Antonio Brown did better than anybody is be obsessed with football. I mean, this is a guy that I remember after my first year in the league, we were both had an appearance with the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl. And he's like, yo, come, I'll come to your room at some point, blah, blah, blah. So this is like a week after the season. My body still hurts from the last game. His season is over. This is before he's taken off as Antonio Brown. And I knock on the door. He drenched in sweat with a ladder in the hotel room. Got done with an hour and a half of just ladder drills. And I'm talking about drenched in the room, brought his own ladder. And this is what he is always. And when you put that kind of work in, it's going to show up on the field. I don't know if that is George Pickens. But that is the only way you can say, okay, George Pickens, I'm confident he'll develop into a consistent player at a high level.
I mean, it's definitely a sad story what happened at AAB because you look back at interviews from that time. He was just a different cat. The eyes weren't as glassy like that. I mean, we all know that there's a lot going on there with AB. I mean, it certainly played out in the public before, but people forget like where he came from, what he had to do to work.
He's a dog.
Yeah, absolute dog. Even if like with the hard knock stuff and his feet all torn up, like that guy would work super hard, and then lost the plot. Everything got away from him, and what was going on between the years played a factor there. But I don't know if George Pickens has ever shown the commitment to the game that AB has.
No, and maybe because he didn't have to get it the same way AB had to get it out the mud. You know what I mean? AB comes from a horrible neighborhood in South Florida. Family situation not great.
No, he had to fight for his life.
Literally fight for his life. Was on his own as a young teenager. Packs his bag up, literally one bag, and goes to walk on at Central Michigan. He's a 6th rounder. He leaves it. Like, literally, he had to earn every piece of it. So I think just that mentality of him not knowing what was next is what fueled the way that he worked. I don't know if that's George Pickens' reality.
Well, the Dallas Cowboys, when they typically take these swings, I don't know what the record is. It kind of feels like the Dolphins do when they go after like big time talent. It doesn't always work out. It's worked out like in some cases with like, you can argue Brandon Marshall it worked out. Certainly with Ricky Williams it worked out, but their history is littered with guys that they took big swings on, David Boston types, where it just didn't end up working out. And Dallas, it starts at the top and it kind of always feels like they take these swings and it doesn't necessarily go their way.